Okay, namaskaram. Hello and welcome to everyone tuning into today's podcast episode. My name is Jitendra Goodlavaleti and I have the great pleasure of interviewing Sai Pogluri Garu and Raja Lakshmi Garu today. This podcast exists for young Hindus to navigate that specific stretch of life that they're in, whether it's college, early on in their career, or figuring out how to navigate the real world. This is where faith can quietly get packed away with the noise of life. Today's conversation will explore what it looks like for young Hindus to stay rooted in their dharma while building their career and social life and understanding their identity. No sugarcoating and no pretending that this is simple. We'll be addressing hard questions. Just an honest look at Sanatan Dharma for the generation living in this exact moment. Sai Garu, thank you so much for this opportunity and taking the time to have this conversation today.
Pleasure talking to you again. No, this is really something that we have been looking forward to. Thanks for kind of hosting this, Jitendra. I really appreciate it. Yeah, again, my name is Sai Pagluru, Sairam Pagluru. I've been a techie engineer by profession. I've been an entrepreneur and currently playing chief technology, information security officer roles. I've been in leadership positions across North America for the last 15 plus years.
Yeah. And well, hi, Jitendra, and good. It's nice to be part of this session. My name is Raji Raman, Raj Lakshmi. I've been here for the past 25 years working in technology, business, and transformation, and I've been an entrepreneur for 7 years. I currently lead the marketing, enterprise marketing technology in a leading bank. So I am very much passionate in women in technology and women in leadership, and also about wellness. And I'm a certified yoga teacher. When we came to know and learn from gurus about Sanatan Dharma, we found that it was it was very amazing to know that how it is very scientific, and we try to do our best to do sharing with the communities, students, and whoever is interested in this life.
Awesome. Thank you both for those amazing introductions and very excited to see how your experience can answer some of these hard questions that the youth have today. So I'll jump in maybe with kind of the most common question that I hear from a lot of people in my age group, which is if God is so fair and just, why do bad things happen to good people? And why does God just watch while so many bad things happen around the world?
I would take a quick shot at this one, right? Like when we define God according to Sanatana Dharma and Hindu philosophy, right? God is really giving the fruits of good and bad that we have from this birth and previous births, because what we are reaping as the fruits of good and bad deeds over lives is what you have been. So when you look and narrow your point of view to this particular life, it feels like, okay, good people are not getting the right benefits, and bad people seem to be reaping great benefits. Because this is like in corporate life also, if you look at one company, oh, you are getting really benefited, but they have laid a strong foundation. So even in turbulent time, they seem to be very well performing. Whereas some people who are performing well, but they are not well positioned for those turbulent times, seem to be hit by even a small kind of a turbulence of whether it is economy or external factors. So we need to make sure that we understand that this lens has to be broadened. The time horizon through which we look at this has to be broadened. Then Sanatana Dharma will clearly explain that you are reaping the benefit of that your karma phala from your current births as well as previous births.
Yeah, and this also answers, for example, the question of the child prodigies. Like you may see kids who may not be surrounded by that specific skill in their family or environment, and then you see how come they're able to get that much knowledge and that much skill. And this also is part of their previous lives and how they were able to do their karma. And that is the basic foundation. And I like the fact that this was the first question, because Sanatana Dharma's the basic foundation principle is not YOLO. That means you don't live only for one life. You have this many lives, the previous birth, and we believe in the birth cycle. So not only the previous births of impacts you have in this birth, but you also have the opportunity of how you can improve it for the following next birth. So your opportunity to see how you can live a dharmic life this year will help you to also see what is a forward-looking one.
Amazing. I really like the way that you both formulated that answer. And speaking about kind of broadening the mindset, and I really like how you said YOLO as well, because that's a phrase that's thrown around so often. Um, a lot of my friends and a lot of people that I communicate with, they often tell me Hinduism is quote unquote a polytheistic religion. And we worship so many different gods and goddesses. So, how can I phrase that to them in a way to say these are all expressions of that same one reality? And how do you formulate that thought process for them to also broaden their mindset?
Yeah, I mean, see, everybody quotes this, right? Ekam sat vipraha bahuda vadanti. So that means there is one superpower that is manifested in different forms. We take a simple example, right? Like there are so many different appliances in our home, but they're all powered by the same electricity that is coming in. So this is a simple explanation, right? We are all like unique appliances with unique features, capabilities, but that we are all powered by, because there are three stages of reality, right? Vyavaharika Satyam, Pratibhatika Satyam, Paramarthik Satyam. At a local level, we are all unique, but at an Paramarthik Satyam means at an ultimate, what is there that is creating this aham identity for us is that Paramatma Shakti. So that is how we need to understand that if you look at a classic physics level, you have so much. But if you go into a quantum physics, that is where it really sheds the light, saying that those are the simple electrons, protons, and neutrons that is forming everything. So the manifestation need to be understood at a elementary level. Yes, there are variations in there, but what is really bringing this unique creation out is the monotheistic Paramatma, we call it, that is behind this manifestation.
How we can relate it to example is, for example, whether it's you or your mom or dad, each play a different role in their life cycle, right? For example, I was a daughter, I was a sister, or I am still sister, and I am a wife, I'm a mother. I have different roles to play in there. So the Paramatma will be displaying in different forms based upon the requirements, right, of the people or the universe, not just people. Actually, we say that Paramatma takes care of even not only animals and people, plants, but also for stones, chara and achara, right? And the second thing which I want to say is look at the way of the um, the thought of having inclusiveness. That means, for example, I see in your room you like blue color, maybe your room is color blue, but maybe I don't like blue, right? I like all the colors. So it gives you an opportunity that if you just say that you have a God which is blue color, just one shape, one thing, one form, or formless, whichever way, not everybody is able to relate it. Not everybody is able to kind of connect to it. So you need to be relatable, you need to be connectable. So that's why you have different forms of gods. And again, they're all part of the same Paramatma Tattva. So in that way, it makes it easy for people to follow, lead, so that they can focus, concentrate, meditate, and reach the ultimate goal of moksha.
So when you say that God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, that omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent God can also take any form and shape.
And that's such a great point that you make in terms of having many different forms and manifestations, and also how they can be linked through symbolism. So, on that point, how would you respond to somebody who asks why these manifestations have so many different heads, they have so many different arms, and they carry so many different artifacts? What is the kind of logic behind that, and how would you kind of explain why these manifestations look a little bit different than how we would maybe be used to certain images of God?
दुष्टाय शिक्षणार्थाय शिष्टाय रक्षणाय च रामकार्यार्थ सिद्ध्यर्थम jatah Sri Hanuman Shivaha. So when you look at a police force, you don't see a police force representing without the required arsenal that they use to both subdue, control, discipline those bad actors in the society, as well as there for protection. When somebody is calling cops in North America, typically in the 911, like you don't want them to show up twirling their thumbs, right? Like you want them to come out with properly, like all the bulletproof vest and all the guns, then you feel protected. So the
Right.
symbolism has to be very much understood, because every weapon has a symbol of protection against bad actors and protection. So those bad actors are there around us and in us. So there are two levels of protection that we seek, is because there is always the fight inside us between the good and bad, and there is always uh, good forces and bad forces in that, right? So that's why, like Vivekananda says, the society is not a bad place because of activities of bad people, but because of inactivity of good people.
Mm, right.
Yes.
I definitely want to come back to this internal external conversation when we start diving into more of like the deeper spiritual questions. So
Sure.
please keep that thought in mind. But
Absolutely.
one other thing I want to touch on in regards to some of these more physical symbolism that we see in the devatas and the pictures that we see in the devatas. Um, Sometimes we hear from our elders and our ancestors many different things which colloquially we may call superstitions today. And it feels kind of silly to like believe in these things sometimes because they pop up randomly and we don't know how to really process them logically. For example, like sneezing before leaving is a bad omen, or cutting your nails or hair on a certain day may be inauspicious. What is the validity of these statements and where does this come from logically?
Yeah, so this is a much deeper and very, very fine-tuned science, right? So when you go to a healthcare setting, you have, we call OP, outpatient setting, means you can go to a walk-in clinic. The rules around there are very liberal. Anybody can walk in, and till we got into this unfortunate COVID situation, people didn't even appreciate social distancing. That one, they call it as a taboo, right? So,
Yeah.
but like historically, to keep the society intact, the touch was also very much limited to a certain settings. Like we greet everybody with a namaste. So that is there, but there is much deeper science. The only thing is it has not been studied over the generations. Then unstudied science becomes superstition, because an inability to explain why makes this superstitious, right? We have actually prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. So we have pancha pranas, but we also have upapranas, naga, kurma, prakara, devadatta, dhananjaya. So, like how your eyelid kind of closes, so that upaprana that is required, and you are sneezing, they are saying that take caution. Look, is there anything dusty that could be causing you this one? So just take a step back, look, observe, and then proceed. They are not saying that don't do it. So this is what, right? People will say that actually we have uh, like Shakunam is a symbol that a bird is giving you from the nature because there is something change happening. Whereas we we call it like we don't even use them, right? Like cat going from one direction to the other versus other direction to the left to right versus right to left, there is a change. And if the cat or any animal going with its prey, it is considered as winning over. So there are much deeper science associated with this one. It is not studied. That is when it becomes understood as a superstition. So I would say that this is a much subtler aspects of science that is there. People say that take a minute, and for certain things, they say that wait for Godohanakala means about 6 minutes for you to kind of reset it, because you just need to kind of reset your thought process and then proceed. So that was not well explained for generations. And say, hey, don't do it. I mean, there is a bit of a scare element
Yeah.
brought in. Then we said that, oh, then slowly we said that, okay, thrice I did, nothing happened. So our data point is also very narrow.
Right.
So both the sides, I would say that there are shortcomings in either not accepting or forcing. So we need to go back to study this as a science. Then we'll be able to develop better appreciation for what is that forecasting that you can get, what is that a deeper science. Because when we talk about data science, that's what I say, that these are the elements that could really significantly influence your intended outcome. To what extent they influence, what type of outcomes, when, what you are doing, all of those things are influenced by this decision. So I would say that
So,
please don't
yeah.
consider them as superstition, though at certain point in times these are not well explained currently, but there is a much deeper science to it. We should start kind of taking time to go into a little bit of a depth.
Definitely. And as a quick follow-up to that, as you said, because these explanations have been so diluted over the generations, what's the best way that someone can like research about these things, and where can we find those answers? Is it reaching out to a guru, or whether it's reading a book?
Yeah, reaching out to the guru and properly doing, right? Like I used the word Shakunam is bird-based symbols or forecasting. Nimittam is animal-based. So again, of course, there are local, any Indian language, there used to be widely published these kind of, I think, Shakuna Shastram is there. So it will cover both Shakunam and Nimittam, but you need to have also affinity to the language. Our conversation is happening in English, but English as a language has very significant limitation when it comes to this part of science. Ideally, if one could kind of develop a little bit more knowledge of their mother tongue, whichever it is, from Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam, Hindi, Gujarati. So those things, and taking up learning of Sanskritam would also significantly help. This is not a self-study material. Nobody is saying that I can do quantum science or quantum physics as a self-study, right? You need, but you can certainly have many complementary resources that would help you further your research or knowledge into this one.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's very, very helpful for and motivational for kids today, I think, to start doing their at least ground research and moving forward with
Yeah.
understanding these things. So kind of on that train of thought now with understanding these practices, um, a very broad question that comes from dharmic philosophy, especially from the Bhagavad Gita, is that being a sthita prajna, or someone who is unshaken by pleasure or pain, is the kind of ideal end goal that we should strive to be as human beings. But in a world that's so busy and run by emotion, passion, and all of our ambitions as young adults, doesn't this risk us standing out as someone that's boring to be around and not someone that's very enjoyable to be around? So, what does this actually look like for someone that's our age?
Yeah, so Sthita Prajna is that aspirational state that we all wanted to reach. It doesn't mean that, see, the thing is, Sitoshna Sukha Dukkheshu Samasangaha Vivarjitaha. Bhagavan is saying that. That means when you are embarking on this great project, let's say whether it is academic or at work, you are going, but you are focused on the outcome, but your effort is not just result driven at that moment. So this is what. So there is you need peel couple of layers for us to get appreciation for that, right? Like, so in Ramayana, Sri Rama was a Sthita Prajna. That is why he was able to say that tomorrow morning is your coronation. They said, okay, sure. And no, all of a sudden, it's not happening for another 14 years, maybe. So, how many of us can take that one? No,
Not
right?
many.
But
Yep.
at the same time, when Sita was abducted, he was saying that, no, I need to find her. He didn't have an army, he didn't have anyone except his brother. He really poured his emotion out. Sthita Prajna doesn't mean that people will not cry. Sthita Prajna will not mean people will not laugh. People will take joy in small things. It is not. But the thing is, you don't get carried away. So that is one big difference is you don't dwell in the past too much. You don't really get carried away when you get win, when you don't get drowned in sorrow. So the drowned in sorrow, sorrow will hit. You will momentarily experience, but you have to let that out. But that cannot drain you or drown you. That is what is Sthita Prajna is an ability to bounce back. When it hits you, it impacts you, but that impact is not lasting longer than it should be. That is what is the Sthita Pragnatvam. Sthita Pragnatvam doesn't mean that we become this robo without emotions.
Right.
So sometimes when it is super simplified, these are the things that will come, right? Like Arjuna was also going through a lot of emotions. He was ready to give up, saying that, no, I don't want to. No, then Krishna says that don't be this coward. He uses very sharp words,
Yeah.
saying that don't be this coward, right? Like you made this effort, right? You made so many times going back and settle this peacefully. You tried to settle for a lot less than what you are entitled for. When all your efforts failed, then as a last resort, you're going. At that time, you should not repent and you should not say that I'm trying to commit this disaster, right? Like if you didn't give them those opportunities, then you should do. So three strikes and you're out. So they
Exactly.
gave him more than as many strikes as possible, right?
Right. Right. 100%. So, kind of going down deeper into these practices, why we actually follow them to eventually attain what that end state of Sthita Prajna is. It seems like when we're on this journey of sadhana and doing our own practices at home, it feels like the exact procedure or the different acharams that we have to follow tend to be prioritized or highlighted more than the kind of relationship that we have with God. So if bhakti, devotion, and the intention of our connection with God is what actually matters, why are the technical aspects of how we do certain things around the house held to such a high degree?
I will give you a very kind of a challenging response. I go to get treated by a doctor. The intention of the doctor is to get me out of that, right? Like whether I'm hit with an accident or going through something, or a doctor is dealing with a heart patient, they need to do an open heart surgery. The intentions of those doctors could be so pure, but it doesn't mean that they start doing the surgery on a highway. right? They need to really get into an ICU setting where this is a very controlled environment to do that. So this is our practices are so deep and spiritual. Depending on the benefit that you are trying to draw out, there are different rules set out. That is why the simplest form of worship, where there are no desha kala niyamas, and you can say that sarva kala sarva avastha you can do, is called namaparayana. So you can say that Namah Shivaya, Sri Rama, Jai Rama, Jai Jai Rama. These are all drawing down on the divine sound energy, harnessing that universal energy, and then kind of channeling it for the benefit of not just you, your family, your societies, and universe at large, right?
Right.
Those things, those practices have very little rules. Whereas when you go deeper, deeper, deeper into it, and you are trying to bring out a very surgical outcome of an intention, then there are rules. So this is how it need to be, because intention alone will not derive the results. So we need to make sure that this is very sophisticated, because as good intentions that as I have, if I take one hydrogen particle and two oxygen, or three oxygen, four hydrogen, I will never get water. So I need to mix the right amount, right? So this is a very highly sophisticated science that we are dealing with. That is why each Vratam has niyamam, each practice has a certain kind of rules and guidelines. The more liberal ones is the Namaparayana, which it can be done Sarvakala Sarvavastha.
So I really like how you brought the kind of description about how sophisticated approaches lead to specific outcomes,
Yes.
which leads me to a question that I feel has actually been a huge part of my questioning with understanding Sanatana Dharma, because we see these very complicated procedures in temples a lot. So when a temple is first being kind of established, the Vigraham will have a prana pratishtha.
Yes.
So if there's a sophisticated procedure happening for that Vigraham, which is then bringing in that energy and Shakti which we pray to every day, how are we able to then just do it at home with pictures of God on our wall and pictures in our wallet and expect that that connection is the same?
Yeah, that's why, like, usually when we say that all pervading gods, kids these days have one question: when God is all pervading, why do I need to go to the temple?
Yeah.
So you would say that, what, oxygen is everywhere. Why do you need oxygen cylinder? I mean, certain conditions will give you abundance of that oxygen for those who are not able to. It is like an enriching environment. So we'll take a quick example, like, yeah, not all temples made equal, right? Certain temples that go through like mantra, yantra, tantra. That is what is the prana pratishtha. It is actually, and also they revive the energy every 12 years. Jirnodharana, Kumbhabhishekam, Mahakumbhabhishekam. There is a process. Beautiful aspect, we'll touch on it, even though directly not related to your question, is the kalashas above these temples have grains that are stored that would help survive any kind of droughts, where even the seeds are lost. Then they will come and draw down from the temple, and then replantation.
Wow.
So there is the entire societal ecosystem is built into it. So like that, first coming back to your question of that, because whenever you have energy towers that need kind of a certain maintenance, right, frequency, so this 12-year cycle maintenance. But at home, typically whenever we do vratas or pujas, we do ahvana, and then after a couple of hours of puja, we are saying that please come back after next year, kind of a thing. So Udvasana is we are doing Avahanam and Udvasana, but in temples we don't do any Udvasana. So that is the difference. But there are like measures and what is the size of the vigraha that we should have at home, and we invite that energy certainly will be harnessed into that and do it. Even at home, the pictures or the vigrahas that we use have to be of a specific size, specific measure. All of these things are either has to be followed as a certain Purana based kind of layout. And that energy, when it is harnessed, it is there in the form of a yantra. So all of these vigrahas will follow that yantra pattern, and our even the pictures have that. So because that is what is when you kind of recite a certain shlokas, even the modern instruments people have tried portraying, it will form certain energy pattern like a Sri Chakra.
Right.
So it is there, but certainly that's why temples have higher level of energies associated with it, because the people who are drawing down from the energy is significantly large in number, whereas at home, those individuals that are getting benefited, you can also create that kind of an energy in a smaller form
Form, yeah.
with limited resources.
Absolutely.